Right, hello everybody, welcome to the Adam Clery football channel. And just look, right, I know we're becoming a bit of a Man United fan account this month, but I'm sorry, sacking your manager, replacing him with someone who was out of work in the Championship, then beating Man City, then beating the champions-elect, that is all worthy of discussion. So let's have a look at how Mikel Carrick has done it again. And as ever, before we start, heartfelt hugs to our close in real life personal data friends. Fotmob will be using stuff from their app in this video, which you can have yourself, just like I do, by downloading it from the link that will be below somewhere. They're great. But first up, take a look at this moment right here, okay? Man United are away from home against the best team in the league. They are losing, and they're about to get played through like they're not even there. They're still really aggressive. They've got Mbeumo and Fernandes pressuring the centre-backs and the goalkeeper. Mainu is clamped onto Ødegaard here, but Arsenal work it really well. Zubamendi jumps past Mbeumo, they bounce pass it into Saliba, and they are immediately out of that press. Next, Saka drops really deep to pull Shaw out of position with Timber going the other way. Dorgu's alive to it, but still they've done it so well that it creates this gap down the wing and they play into that. It takes like a last second block to stop this being quite a dangerous cross. And yes, nought comes from it, I will grant you, but to go from this situation here to this situation here that easily is really good. Actually, quite scary, in fact, from Man United's perspective, because as we say, you're away from home against the best team in the league. You're already losing. It's still only the first half. You should probably take a little bit of a step back, actually, and make sure you're not going to go in at half-time with the game already gone. But this is minutes after that. Same two players pressing, and they've gone man for man in the second line. Dorgu, Ahmad, and Mainu have cut off Timber, Ødegaard, and Trossard, and Casemiro is tracking Declan Rice's runs. This entire section of the pitch, every option in it is cut off. And this is really brave out of possession play, because while all these options are cut off, you're still leaving this much space for Arsenal to play in right after they've just shown that they can play through you with the relative ease. But the reason why they're doing this and what's been different about this Man United team in the last two games is that they're just, like, not arsed. Like, they don't care. They've turned up to play the best two teams in the league, but they've turned up with the intention of actually playing them. And yes, this is a bad pass from Zubamendi, but he doesn't make that mistake if Saliba isn't being rushed into his pass and he himself is having to rush his own touch. And those are two things that are obviously only happening because you've got Bruno Fernandes here and Brian and Mbeumo here, not like 10, 15, 20 yards deeper. And that was sort of the pattern of the game. Like, Arsenal did play through Man United's press pretty well at times, but Man United managed to resist the urge for almost the entire game to then keep sitting deeper and deeper. They were constantly trying to force these mistakes and win the ball back. And it worked. Like, Man United won the ball back in this bit, the scary bit of the pitch, 4 times in that game. It got them 1 goal, it could have got them 1 or 2 more. And just for contrast, this is Arsenal's graph of the exact same metrics. They don't even so much as get a loose ball anywhere in a dangerous area. Man United did this really well. And I would just like, at this point, to highlight Lisandro Martinez to you, because I saw that Harry Maguire got man of the match, and if you look at his FOTMob numbers here, he was incredibly physically dominant in this game, so fair play. And last week, we talked about how secure in possession Kobbie Mainu is, but Lisandro Martinez, these were his passes in this match. And in particular, I want you to just squint and have a look at this chunk down here. And that is because when you're playing any team, but especially a team as good as Arsenal, being this committed to playing forward passes from this area of the pitch when you're a centre-back is absolutely massive if you want to win that game. Like you can see here, right, Arsenal haven't jumped out with the press yet, but he still finds this pass between their front line into Fernandes, who pops it off, and all of a sudden, they've taken all of these players out of the game just by being progressive with the ball. And here as well, like, there's loads of easy options for him. He's under a lot of pressure, but he still manages to find this pass, which really opens things up. And in fact, Opta, I saw them post this last night, had him down as making 11 line-breaking passes in this game, which is, if you think, it's the one between the midfield and between the defence and stuff like that. They're the passes you really want. He made 11, which is more than any other player on this pitch. And just to really give him his flowers, actually, these are all his unsuccessful passes he made for Man United, and the only one that puts his team in any sort of trouble whatsoever is here. And would you like to know what that was? That was him winning a header. Lisandro Martinez, a header. So yeah, it sounds really simple, but what Mikel Carrick has done, what he's changed about this team, is he has brought them to the Emirates with a commitment to being really brave off the ball to stop Arsenal playing through, even if they are still playing through, but they're also now a lot more effective when they're actually on the ball. They're not just sitting there hoping for a counter-attack, they're playing them at the same time. And that last bit's really important because unlike the Manchester City game, here, Bruno Fernandes was being given no space between the lines at all. In the first half especially, like this is the first few minutes, you can see here Saliba has followed him this high up the pitch and this wide when he goes looking for the ball. Like that's all the way to the touchline in his own half. And here as well, where he's actually in the pocket where he wants to be, Saliba is again wearing him like a bad coat. And don't get me wrong, I still thought Bruno Fernandes had a really, what's the word I want, effectful? Is that a word? Impactful. Good, a really good game, but this idea from Arsenal was the right one. By pushing a centre-back up onto him, they were going to stop him and Mbeumo overloading Zubimendi the way they'd done against Rodri last week. And to be fair, that actually did work. Fernandes found it a lot harder to create chances in this game. In fact, this one for Mbeumo is the only real chance he makes in the whole... Now, I know, I can see you looking at me there. You're going to say, but he got an assist for the Patrick Dorgu goal. That's not a chance created, is it? Like, if the ball you give your mate puts them in this situation here, you've not made that for them, have you? That's more on Dorgu. But regardless, those are the only two things he was able to do in the final third. But the reason I mention that is because 2 weeks ago, if you were able to limit the chances Bruno Fernandes was able to create, you would effectively stop Manchester United entirely. But they were still very good and very dangerous and making things happen going forward because the rest of this team stepped it up. And I do want to give Mikel Carrick quite a generous serving of praise here because there is a decision he makes in this game which directly leads to Man United winning it. When Patrick Dorgu goes off with an injury, there is not long left in that match. You are hanging on to a 1-goal lead, and the reason you're defending well is because you are in this 4-4-2 block, but you are being quite fluid with how you're doing it. Having Ahmad on this right-hand side meant that whatever Trossard or later Saka were doing, he could react to that. So if they were getting right into the top line of the pitch, he could drop in and give you a back five so you match them up. But if they were trying to stay between the lines instead, he could hold his position in the midfield and give you these two banks of four. They were being very clever with that. And from that first goal in the 29th minute all the way up until that late equaliser, right, Arsenal could not move this block around sufficiently to open it up and create any clear chances. They had virtually nothing between those two goals. In fact, the best thing they did do was prior to the goal when Man United had an injury up the other end of the pitch and couldn't double up well enough, because when it goes out to Madueke, Ben White moves away from the area to drag Luke Shaw from the cover, but given he knows they're supposed to be doubling up, he gets caught between the two, and when the gap opens up, he's in no man's land, and the ball is there to roll Ben White in. But, if you're an Arsenal fan, you may remember this, they make a complete mess of that. All these options are there for a cutback, and they cannot find the simple pass in that move. And honestly, this moment here is just the story of Arsenal's game. Like, there were precious few moments of genuine ingenuity, and when they did come along, the pass was shite. Anyway, yes, though, Mikel Carrick, there are 10 minutes left. You are 1 goal up, and your ability to be solid is because you are doubling up in these wide areas, and the way you're able to do that on the left is because your left forward is actually a wing-back by trade and has those defensive instincts. And I think seeing that man limp off almost any other manager away at the Emirates with precious little time left would turn to his bench and would see a big glowing halo around the head of Mason Mount. You put him on here, he's reliable, he's intelligent, he won't let you down, or if you're really in the process of like dropping a brick, you could do something mad and put Mazraoui on at right back and stick Dallo there, so at least it's another defender or something like that. But Michael Carrick, again, is just not arsed. He brings on an actual honest-to-God centre-forward and moves Cunha, another forward, into this left-hand position, because just like the Manchester City game, he has this mindset of if you do not take a risk, you will not get a reward. Now, just quietly, right, between you and me, I also think this decision is maybe motivated by the fact that Benjamin Sesko is 6'5" tall.
Look at the size of that fucker.
And Arsenal subs mean they're now turning up at corners with Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, Gyökeres, Merino. A lot of very big lads. And that does sort of backfire initially because, yeah, his brain sort of falls out, doesn't it? And he forgets that if you're behind the line and you've got the ball, then the ball is also behind the line and that's a goal. But it does then pay off immediately after that. You may have pulled your plunger red raw over that Matheus Cunha goal, and yep, fair enough, but if I could just slap you around the face and bring you back to earth just long enough to rewind that clip slightly. Šeško physically gets a hold of Saliba here and wins this first ball, which then just about drops to Kobbie Mainoo. And from here, you can see Arsenal are not set. They're scrambling to recover, and it's in moments like this in these games where quality can finally make a difference. Bruno Fernandes doesn't panic. He sits Merino down. Mainoo is a generational talent in those sorts of congested areas, so he draws 4 players towards him and then just casually pops it through Declan Rice's legs. But if you just look at the situation that then creates, that is still not a good goal-scoring situation for all but the very, very best players. But Benjamin Šeško here is again involved in a way that I don't think you would really appreciate at the time, and he sort of makes this goal. He drags the defensive line from here when Cunha gets on the ball to here when the shot is taken, and I would just like us all to acknowledge how good a run this is. Because if he goes this way, right, Gabriel will go with him and Saliba can jump out to stop Cunha taking the shot. But because he goes this way, even for just a fraction of a second, he ends up occupying both of those centre-backs. So Gabriel cannot jump out until he's passed him off. And Saliba can't jump out at all because he's about to pick him up. And it just delays what the Arsenal defenders would have done in that situation long enough to arrive at this. And this, again, is still not a good goal-scoring situation, but all of this space that Cunha has to do something with comes from 2 bits of really good, proper centre-forward play from Šeško. First winning this ball and then making this run. And neither of those 2 things happen, and by extension the goal, if Michael Carrick turns around, looks at his bench and goes, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit nervous here, but don't worry, Mace won't let us down." And I mean, granted, yeah, okay, Mason Mount might not have been stood behind the goal line here, but that's football, isn't it? So, yeah, you can kind of just rinse and repeat exactly what we said last week. Carrick's big success here has not been ingenious tactical play, even though it has been quite good and quite smart. But what he's done is he's taken this incredibly talented squad and found more ways to put them all in positions where that talent comes through. Places where their instincts are really good. Places where their ability is really good. And if you can find scenarios like this for someone like Matheus Cunha, it's not a great situation, but he is good enough that he can do something with it. And that something was win this game of football. So, yeah, that is how Michael Carrick has now had 5 games as the Manchester United interim manager, and in those, he has beaten Pep Guardiola, he has beaten Unai Emery, he has beaten Mikel Arteta twice, and then drawn away to Thomas Tuchel. Not because he is some super genius manager, man, but because these are very good players, and he is good at finding ways to let them show. That is my opinion. And if you've enjoyed this, which I really hope you have, like, I worked really hard on it. I wanted to make you happy. Then you can subscribe to us here at ACFC, which we're so close to 200k subs. So please do that, because it'll be unbearable when it happens. Or you can follow me across all the social medias at Adam Clery, Clery. I mostly do Instagram, and it is mostly pictures of me in shorts. If that's of any interest to you, or you can become a channel member and tell us what videos we should make and join us on our live streams. We're doing one for Transfer Deadline Day, I think, and loads of other fun and cool stuff, including merchandise. And that's it. That's everything I wanted to say. Have a good week, everyone. January's nearly finished. Bye.